swag out there and boss. Look, is that bow tie?
And welcome to another episode of the Sartorial Geek Podcast by Webster Style, where we talk about bow ties, comic books, and everything in between. I'm your host, Webster Style, the man, the voice, the fragrance. And let's jump right into it with the download. This week's recommendation is one that has been quite beleaguered since it started way back in 2021, I believe, when it first dropped. There was a lot of angst and discontent within the gaming community because there was such an always on live service component to this game, and for the most part it was very run-of-the-mill as far as it beat 'em up and leveling up and grinding. And then there was outcry with the DLC specific for just PlayStation with Spider-Man exclusive. I'm talking about none other than Marvel's Avengers. Now, this is a game that I spoke about a few months ago as a recommendation for download because it dropped on Xbox Game Pass. Since then, a lot has transpired. The development team has moved on. The game is being sunset, at least the live services component, as of September 30th. And right now, I'm back again recommending this game because on both the PlayStation and Xbox, at the time of this recording, it is now down to the low price of $7.99. Now, mind you, this game will be delisted as of September 30th. But since all of the live service elements have gone away, all of the previously locked behind paywall DLC, costume, things of that nature are now available. So now is the time, if you are a Marvel fanatic and you had any kind of trepidation about this game after all of the bad reviews, for $7.99, it is a game that, well, let me be frank, is going to be well worth your money and the time that you put in. I enjoyed it the little bit of time that I had played with it. However, if I'd paid full price for the game, I would have been disappointed because it wasn't anything that lived up to the hype or expectations of not just gamers, but Marvel fans as well. So that's my recommendation for the download this week, Marvel's The Avengers. Next up, we have short takes. I'm going to be very brief on these. We're going to talk about two, but there's been a whole lot of content, new stuff that has been revealed over the past couple of weeks. First off, Blue Beetle, DC's latest movie coming out. I believe it's coming out in, I don't remember if it's coming out before The Flash or after The Flash, but it looks really cool. The Blue Beetle, especially this Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle, is a character that I've really come to like, especially with his portrayal in Young Justice. And the trailer really did a lot to embolden goodwill with the character and the DCU, in my opinion. It's also a trailer that I think that with the tone of it, and outside of the obvious bug similarities, I think that this character could be that youthful representation that Spider-Man is in the MCU. I really think that he as in Jaime Reyes could be the eyes which the audience sees this new DC EU evolving, or DCU, whatever they want to call it, evolving. So I'm looking forward to Blue Beetle. I'm not sure if it's a film that I am running out to see in the theaters, but it definitely looks like something that's going to be a lot of fun. So that's my take on Blue Beetle. Next up is, we're going to Marvel's Secret Invasion. They dropped the trailer for Secret Invasion with the Skrulls taking over, or the Skrulls taking over. It's interesting because watching this, I'm excited, but I'm not as excited simply because Star Trek Picard has done this whole shape-shifting creatures taking over secretly things so well in season 3. I am not as excited for the premise of Secret Invasion now, considering I'm seeing something very similar week to week when it comes to Star Trek Picard season 3. Now, obviously, that this is a apples to oranges sort of comparison, but the premise is similar. But I'm still looking forward to Secret Invasion. Just my hype for it, my excitement for it has somewhat diminished because of the excellent storyline choices that Picard season 3 has done. Now, at the time of this recording, I still have to watch episode 9 and then episode 10 of Picard next week. So that may change by the time we get a resolution to this season. So those are my short takes for this week. Next up, we have an interview with a very lovely lady, Pinup Savvy Monroe, who is a woman who very much harkens her style back to a bygone era, the 50s and 60s, with these sort of portrayals of femininity that you just don't see nowadays. She has a YouTube, Instagram, social media presence that is very much about class, very much about the way things used to be when it comes to how women were projected and portrayed. But more importantly, she really strives to bring a classiness to femininity, sexuality, and sexuality with her modeling, as well as her makeup tutorials and her style hauls. Let's get into our interview with Savvy Monroe. What's going on, everybody? It's Webster Style, the man, the voice, the fragrance, and we are joined today by the lovely Savvy Monroe. Savvy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Now, one of the things that intrigued me about your content and you specifically was you see online, especially in some circles, that you may or may not, as far as the audience really deals in, there's a lot of conversation about femininity. And one of the things that really struck me was that you really take your content back to a different era. You really focus on that sort of, I would say, classic feminine pinup sort of beauty, whereas it's very much about sexuality and sensuality, but not so much risque, at least risque by modern standards.
Yeah.
May have been a bit risque back in the 50s and 60s, but today it's very tame. And I was attracted to that because I've seen some, not so many pinups in that era, but conversation about femininity, what it is, how do you display it as a woman, and conversely masculinity as far as a man is concerned. But I've always been classified as an old school. I'm very much in a very classic sensibilities as far as perspective, viewpoint, as well as entertainment. And that is all while I saw, I'm like, I have to talk to her because it's very interesting, because that whole pinup thing, that era, you talk about the Marilyn Monroes and the Betty Pages. And one of the things that people never remember is none of these women were little women. And history, at least the stereotype of history in that era of a woman and what was sexy, it makes you think, oh, it was these little itty bitty women running around. Like, no, these were, especially for the era, curvy women. And that's one of the things, like I said, that really appealed to me about your content. So how did you even stumble upon this, let's say, lifestyle or image that you want to project online? What attracted you to this?
Well, what attracted me to this was, my grandfather, he used to play the trombone for Billie Holiday. That was one of the reasons. He also played for Ella Fitzgerald, so it's a lot of musical history in my family background. Also, my great-grandmother raised me. I was raised by her. If I were to tell you a picture of her, she looks exactly like Elizabeth Taylor, down to her eyes, her skin tone, her hair. And I was enamored by old photos of my great-grandmother, and she used to tell me how it was back in the day, how candy was like 5 cents, and the car she used to drive, and just the clothes. And she passed down a lot of her jewelry and her clothes to me. I was her favorite because I was the one that was mostly interested into this the most. And, I said, you know what? I want to look just like my great-grand. Like, I want to look like her because she was just the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And just her classiness and glamour that she exudes, that's what I wanted to do. And it's something about the the retro style that it just has that classic, beautiful look where it's revealing, but you don't know everything. It's a mystery. And that's what I want it to be and exude in my content. I want it to be like, you see me, but you don't know who I am. Like, you have to dig deeper to know me. So, that was another reason why I got into it. And then, this was back when Model Mayhem was really big. I had a friend that he's a photographer. He was like, hey, I need a model for a shoot. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do it. He was like, yeah, you ever did boudoir shoots before? And I was like, no, I haven't. And he was like, look, can you just do this one shoot for me? And I promise I will do something for you back. I'm like, okay, fine. Because I wasn't even going to get into it. And so I started doing it. He was like, for you to be your first time, you're really good at it. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, you're good. And so he put my photos all over Model Mayhem. And then that's when I was starting to pick up work from different photographers. And I started reaching out to brands, seeing if they would want to collaborate with me, because you didn't see a lot of pinups of color around that time when I started. And I started 2013. So you didn't see a lot of them around that time. So you'll see one or two, but they were token ones. So I wanted to do that. And that's how I started. I started just by word of mouth, but it all stemmed from my great grandmother though. That's how I originally got into it, listening to my grandfather's vinyls, listening to my grandmother's records and stuff, and her old photos, or her little jewelry that she passed on to me that I still have. And I'm blessed to, be able to still, in a way, push her legacy in a way. I think I'm continuing it for her in a way, but I genuinely enjoy it. It's something I genuinely love.
I love that. I myself was raised a lot, not primarily, but a lot by my great grandparents. And I know that a lot of who I am is because of what I learned from them. So I can definitely understand that, sort of sense and sensibility really being passed down from that bygone era. Now, I wanted to ask you, I see that you also do a lot of hauls. I know you do, the Sheen, the more modern stuff, but you also do a lot of vintage as well.
Yeah.
Where do you go for your vintage hauls?
Oh, well, because the vintage reproduction is very expensive. And I notice a lot of my followers are like single mothers. They, some will splurge on it, but a lot of them are budget. They're looking for budget clothing. So what I do is I'll go to AliExpress. I look on eBay. I look on Etsy. I look on different sites that you would normally look, and I would find pieces that has that 1950 silhouette or 60 silhouette, and I would put it in my hauls and be like, hey, you guys can try this, or you can try this, or you can try this. And sometimes I would get some vintage reproductions, but mainly all of my stuff is not vintage at all. I just make it look like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I love the ingenuity of it. And just one of the things I love, just style in general, it really allows you to find ways of making it looking good, but not making it hard on your pocket, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, because I'm a single mom, so it's like, as bad as I want to splurge on a certain item, I have responsibilities.
Right.
And I can't do that. So I can't do it all the time. I will allow myself like a treat on my birthday, or a treat, once in a while. But it's very rare that I will splurge crazy like that. The biggest, most expensive piece I have bought to date was an original 1950s dress. And that cost me like $200. And it was a very special piece. And I am a plus size model, so, I found it in my size. And
right.
With vintage, once you see it, grab it now, because when it's gone, and it's going to break your heart when it's gone. And I've let so many pieces go because I didn't hit it right when I should have got it. So
understood. Well, even 200 is not really bad for a vintage dress in great condition.
To me.
Well, no, I mean, in retro, you think about how just clothing costs now, quality clothing, how much, and you're going to pay a lot more than $200. And I'm someone who says that, yeah, the older stuff in general, regardless if it's electronics or clothing, there is a quality that just doesn't exist now. And if you're getting something that is vintage, that is in great condition, that can fit you for, around the price, if not less, of something comparable on the modern market, that's when I say it's not that bad. And in that case, you're talking about a vintage dress, you're talking about from the 50s. So you're talking about 60 years old right now. Are we at 70 years old for 50s now? We're getting there. For it to be in great condition and you're only dropping 200. Yeah, I know that's like the electric bill or what have you, but if you make it so you're treating yourself, 200 treating yourself every year or so, it's not really that bad when
It's
you think
not.
about it.
I
No.
guess to me, it's because I'm very frugal. Because a
Oh,
lot of
I
my things in
understand.
my house is thrifted. I
Yeah.
thrift everything. I'm an antiquer. I'm either at the thrift shop or I'm vintage shopping. I'm always looking for a bargain where I don't feel like, okay, dang, I overspent. So I'm always looking for like deals. And I guess that's why I say that 200 was just a lot to me. But it was worth it because it's my favorite piece
Right.
and something that I will, if I ever have a daughter, I will give it to her if she likes that.
Right. No, I understand. I understand. I think it's especially when you have people you take care of. You probably drop that easy for them, but when it comes to yourself, you really have to fight with like, no, I shouldn't do it. There are other things I got to do. So that I totally understand. I very much have the same mindset when it comes to things of that nature. I will sit on something for a very long time
Oh
before I
my
pull
God,
the
me
trigger.
too.
Like,
There's so
like
many things in my cart. And the
yes,
only reason why I have not pushed buy is because of the shipping. So I will literally ask for a deal or I will send them a offer just so I can feel better. It's the
right,
shipping that really keeps me from buying
yes,
it.
yeah,
The
oh yeah.
shipping, I have literally not bought things just because of the shipping by itself.
Oh, I understand. I understand totally. Now, I'll ask you this question because I talk about buying myself things, and I'm very much into fragrances. I see that you have a couple of fragrance reviews, or you're talking about fragrances like Elizabeth Taylor's White Diamonds. Are you into fragrances at all?
Yes, I am. I really love Chanel Number Five. Chanel
Okay.
Number Five is my one of my favorite fragrances. Um, I'm into. There's this one that Dorothy Dandridge wears. It's called Touch of Fire. I love that fragrance, and that is by Lucky Heart. I'm always getting that fragrance. I did a video on Lucky Heart on their products. If you was to look further down in my videos, you'll see that I did a video of Lucky Heart. So Touch of Fire is one of my favorites. I do love Versace. There's some Versace fragrances that I do love. Um, I have Elizabeth Taylor's White Diamonds. I know it's old school to a lot of people. It smells like a granny. A lot of people say it smells like a granny, but to me it smells good. I really love her powders. I have just a select a few fragrances. I don't buy every fragrance, but once I find something I really love, I stick with that one. I always have like a signature.
Understood.
Oh,
Yeah.
and Coach Floral. I love that one. That's a new one I just got. Coach Floral. I love that one.
Understood. I think with anything, even if you aren't like someone who's like really into fragrances, having a signature scent or at least a couple that are, you really like to wear, and it really, fragrances just for me, and I don't know about you, it always makes you feel like a bit more confident. It's like it is another way of
Yes.
expressing yourself, and it's almost as if you were just like, I'm very much a mood fragrance person, and I will get up and I will get one, and I was like, I want to smell like this today, or like there's one that I would classify as my signature scent, Zahara signature for home, and I it's such a calming but also smooth and exciting scent as well, with the lavender and the oud and the frankincense and the myrrh, but it's just so gentle. And it's such a like, so if I'm like a conference or business, or I really want to project confidence and sophistication, like that is one I will automatically grab. So I totally understand that, you just want to wear something that you like and makes you feel good, and something that is distinctly you, that defines you as far as your persona.
Right.
So I love the fragrances. Now, let me ask you this, though. You also talk about sort of old Hollywood. What are some of your favorite older movies?
My favorite older movies, oh man, there's so many. If I was to name a few, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof by Elizabeth Taylor. I love all of Marilyn. Well, I can't say I love all of Marilyn's films. I love her Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Dorothy Dandridge, Carmen Jones. I do like Porky and Bess. I do like, let me see. There was one that Lena Horne, Stormy Weather, Lena Horne did. I do like The Prince and the Showgirl, Marilyn Monroe. I love Jane Mansfield's The Girl Can't Help It. I do love Gypsy Rose Lee's movies. She did a couple of movies. I forgot. It's on the tip of my tongue on that one. I really try to watch a lot of people of color movies back in that time, and because there wasn't a lot, so I really tried to watch a lot of those, and it's very hard to find those. So the ones that I can just name off the top of my head is like Stormy Weather, Carmen Jones. There's one that Billie Holiday played in. I think it's Lady of Shanghai. I think that's what it's called. Don't quote me on it, but it's very scarce because she didn't play in a lot of movies. I think she only played in one. So I try to watch a lot of movies that has a lot of people of color in it.
Now, you speak of sort of legends when it comes to Black female singers, especially during that era. You talk about Billie Holiday, Lena Horne, Dorothy Dandridge. How has growing up and then watching those women, and those that came after them, influenced you as well as far as what you do? You talk about your great grandmother, but I'm pretty sure those entertainers, considering how unique and prolific they were, I would assume had some sort of impact as well.
Well, I guess what made me really look at them as someone as of influence is because when I was going through a really rough breakup with an ex-boyfriend, all I listened to was Billie Holiday, and she hit me in ways that no other singer can reach me, where some of her songs really made me break down crying because I felt the pain in her voice, and it felt like she was singing on what I was going through. That was another reason why I look up to Billie Holiday. With Lena Horne, I look up to her because she was very involved in the civil rights movement, and that was another reason why I looked up to her as well. And I forgot to add Nina Simone. I love Nina Simone. One of my biggest influences music-wise. I listen to her a lot. So the reason why they influenced me so much is just because, at times when I was going through things, their music touched me in a way where it was right on time, that I needed something that I could relate to. So that's why I really look up, to those influences.
That's awesome. You talk about influence and influencers. One of the things we've seen in the past couple of years is, as far as the media is concerned, and how advertisers and television and media really portray women with curves, regardless of the size and degree. And you've been doing this for about 5 years now, as far as online and whatnot. So you were there even before the tide really started to turn as far as perception and utilizing of women with curves to really advertise, sell products, and promote positivity. How, if anything, have you seen as far as the change in how you're perceived, or even how your content is perceived with all of that? I'm
sorry, say that part again.
Let me change a little bit. Have you seen any differences with the change of sort of attitudes and perceptions of women with curves in the media? Has that changed? Like, has it had a positive effect on your content, on your
Oh,
reception, and making connections, things of that nature?
oh yes, yes. I noticed that a lot. Well, some. I'm not gonna say all, but more of. I noticed that they are very more accepting to
Hmm.
bigger bodies. They're more accepting to people with disabilities. They're more accepting to people with that looks different. Because back in the 50s and 60s and back in those times, you didn't see no woman my size on
Right.
a magazine. You didn't see them on a cover. You didn't see them anywhere. You'll see them probably in a Pulp Fiction magazine. You'll see them in the men's magazine. You'll see them in the fetish magazine, but you wouldn't see them nowhere. So now that we're in this time period, they're very more accepting. I will say though, it is a little hypocrisy on some things because with Lizzo, they don't accept her all the way. I
Hmm.
feel like with Lizzo, they judge her because of her size. She's not the good, the acceptable fatty to
Right.
them. That's how I see it. It's like she's not the acceptable one, you know. As long as she's not sloppily fat, then it's accepting.
Right.
She can be big, she can be her size, but not sloppy. And I feel like yeah, they accept it, but then they also still judge her. And I think
Hmm.
it's very unfortunate for her, because there was a time when I seen her do a live with P. Diddy, and she was shaking, dancing and stuff, and they said stop. The Diddy was like, no, 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 don't do that. But then when, a smaller model was doing the same thing, they kept letting her do it. So in a way, they're still, yeah, they're accepting, but they're still not accepting. You know, um, they still judge, women that's bigger than the acceptable plus size woman that they want to see on magazines. Because you don't ever really see 500, 400 pound women. You'll see a nice size BBW woman.
Right.
She'll be 200 and something, but she's not gonna be 500 pounds.
Right. Is
You know,
the
so
Ashley Graham archetype pretty much?
exactly. So yes, they are more accepting, but to a certain point, then they stop being accepting. And I do notice that. Now there's a friend that I'm a very good friend with, and she's in that mark where she is around 300, 400 pounds, and she's a model, a plus size model. And it is so hard for her to get work. It's so hard for a company. Companies don't even want to really work with her just
Mm.
because of that. And and I want to segue into the vintage brands. A lot of vintage brands, they'll accept one or two plus size models, but it can't be no more than that.
Right.
I noticed that in vintage brands as well, that they'll be more accepting to a white plus size model, but not a black one.
Understood. So it changes, but still a lot of ways to go.
Yeah.
Understood. I think that's with everything in perception of who we are and what we are, especially when you deal with people of color. There are always certain, maybe sometimes extra hurdles and extra changes that need to be made as far as a change perception. But I understand that totally. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You are a singer.
Yes, I do singing on the side. I haven't done nothing in a while, but I want to get back into it because it's something that I genuinely enjoy to do, and it's like a hobby of mine. So yeah, I do.
Mhm.
I do sing.
So, what sort of genres do you really like to sing?
I like to sing jazz, like jazzy, doo-woppy, scat type of music. I'm very influenced by Sarah Vaughan on the way how she sings. Ella Fitzgerald. I like to sing stuff like that. So if I was to, come out with my own like just a song, one song. I will want to make a song similar like that. But it's me. It's me. It's my own sound. I don't want to copy anybody. I just, that's just my style, how I want to sing it.
Right. Understood. Yeah. One of the things about singing that I've loved, as far as I'm not a singer, but in watching artists, really, while they are influenced and impacted by others, just the ability to make a song their own and put it in their own voice. So don't even worry about copying, just make it you.
Thank you. Oh, and one more influence, and I forgot her, Julie London.
Okay.
She's one of the biggest. I have a lot of her. I listen to a lot of vinyls. I have a lot of vinyls. I listen to most of my music on vinyl. I listen to a lot of her records, and I try to not imitate, but I try to listen to how she breathes, how she speaks it, how she sings it, how she whispers it, and that's another big influence on me too. Is Julie London.
Okay, so singer, model. What don't you do?
I like to act too.
Okay.
That's another hobby I like to do. I like to act. I love makeup. I love anything beauty related. I love hair. I love beauty, just anything beauty wise. So, and clothes, I do. So those are some things I like to get into as well.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. Tell everybody where they can find you.
If you want to know more about me, then you can go to my Instagram, Pinup Savi Monroe, or you can go to my TikTok, Pinup Savi Monroe, or if you want to watch the videos of me, you can go to Pinup Savi Monroe on YouTube.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We'll see you guys later. Now, Savvy and I, we talked, for a while after everything was recorded. She is such an interesting and just great person to talk to. So make sure you check out her content at all of her links. Now, one of the things we talked about, obviously, was, hey, fragrances. We both have a love for fragrances. And this week, for the fragrance of the week, we have one that has so much style and sophistication. I was literally blown away when I first applied it. And it is none other from the house of Tom Ford, Black Orchid. With this one, you're going to find top notes of black truffle, black currant, ylang ylang, and bergamot. Heart notes of black orchid, floral notes, fruity notes, and lotus wood. And then base notes of balsam wood, frankincense, patchouli, sandalwood, vanilla, and vetiver. Now, this one I believe I smelled on a tester way back when and wasn't completely wowed by it, but actually having a sample, testing it out on my skin. This is one of those fragrances that it's a bit higher in price. I forget exactly how much it is. I feel like it's like $150 to $200 for a bottle, but it is one, when you smell it, you start to think, this might be worth every penny if I bought a bottle. It is not as floral as you would think it would be, with the fragrance bearing the name as well with some of the notes. But it has a sweetness, is unisex, so they can go for either or sex. I don't think you kind of use masculine, feminine, but it is just, it's deceivingly heavy, meaning that it comes off a little light with the florals, but it's such a heavy and rich fragrance. And I think a lot of it comes from, at least with the top, the truffle and the black currant, and then you really get that base of vanilla and sandalwood and balsam patchouli, and fragrance that really just anchors all of the floral notes. It is very long lasting, very potent. And the one thing about having a sample, though, I don't know about you, I don't really spray a lot, or I don't do sprays like if I owned a bottle of a fragrance because I'm more conservative, because I want to save it and try it again and again and again to really get a sense of the fragrance after the first application. So I don't think I even spray down the little atomizer all of the way to get a full spray because I'm very conservative about the fragrance. But this is one that I think if you have not tried this one, pick yourself up a sample. Go to your Ulta, wherever, and try it out. I am really impressed with Tom Ford's Black Orchid, and I honestly think that you will be too. Now, what am I wearing today? Today, it's hot. It's hot outside. It's pushing 85 degrees, so I wanted something that I thought would be more indicative of the weather, something that wasn't as heavy, but something that was fragrant and a little sweet, but also enticing. So I chose Ked Al Verson from Latafa. This is one I've talked about before. I really like this one because of the pineapple note. It's really like it's pineapple, so it's bright, it's sweet. You got the spice with the saffron and the jasmine. Then you got that woody base that's anchored by the amber with oud and sandalwood. It is a fragrance that I think is really, really good for the spring and the summer, and is one I'm going to be wearing a whole lot more before the next 2 seasons are done. So that's my fragrance of the week. Speaking of fragrances, why don't you check out Pete and Pedro for their wonderful line of fragrances? I've talked about Villain numerous times. They have a selection of, I believe it's 5 fragrances that are inspired by some of the most popular fragrances in the world, like Creed Aventus, Aqua de Jo, and many others. They run for just $50 for a 50 ml bottle. And if you use the link in the show notes, that will give you a 10% off of your first purchase. Also, you can support us by becoming a member of our Patreon for just $1, $3, or $5. You can become a producer of the show, where it gets you perks like having this podcast a day or so early. Also, exclusive video content. If you like my footage from Exotica, there's a uncut versions that are going to be on the Patreon. A little uncut, a little rough, but you know, YouTube is a very sanitized place, I'll put it that way. So you want to see anything behind the scenes, something a bit more risque, a bit more adult, definitely check out the Patreon. And also, are you tired of Red Bull? You tired of Monster? You tired of downing those energy drinks with all of the sugar? Check out Dubby. Dubby is an energy drink mix, and you can get 10% off your first purchase by using the code WebsterMan or the discount link below. All of those help to fund what we do here at the Sartorial and Geek podcast, as well as WebsterStyle.com. Speaking of what we do here, make sure you check us out every week with my man Brian Saff and the legend Kuya P behind the boards, talking about everything in gaming at the NRW checkpoint over on Nerds Rule the World. Also, make sure, going back to Nerds Rule the World, check me out with Kuya P and Sean Mongold every week talking wrestling with Kayfabe Baby, the NRW Ring Generals podcast. Of course, I am all over social media. Check me out on Instagram and just Instagram at this point at Webster Style and Sartorial and Geek. Check me out on Twitter, Webster Style, and check me out on TikTok at _Webster Style. Make sure you check anything and everything that is Webster Style out over at WebsterStyle.com. And of course, emails, comments, criticisms, questions, want to be on the show, drop me a line at info@WebsterStyleMagazine.com. Thank you again for your time. Thank you again for your listening ear. And remember, stay safe out there and be blessed.
White Wednesday? I know last time. Well, I wore polka dot. You didn't wear.
Miss Million, them heels killing them, but I'm sure it's a Thursday. Bow tie Thursday, pasta cream in your heels looking sharp, babe. Acting like you don't know the rules up in the workplace. Must I remind you it was till on your birthday? Don't get me wrong, I think we killed in the birthdays. And you picked the hella fit for the church day. Let's say you picked the risk game for it. Now you got the floor filled with bras that you purchase. Pick a color scheme that can match the berry corset. Get the berry cream. Get the berry cream. Get the berry cream. Make a little scene. Cause no one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it off and let me see what's under them seams. Cause no one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it off and let me see what's under them seams. Let's see what it seems. If it is what it seems. Do it again. Chicks be looking thick leggings, you know what I mean? I don't know. Take a hint though, don't try to get me out of my mint. Coat mint though, smoking hot, rocking this pin so thin. Tie hairline, looking like a stint so pimp. No lie, I'm sharper than a utensil. Instrumental, plain dang, homie. I was hoping we could walk out with that bang bang, honey. See them plain James, honey. Them lame frames, funny. We tell it fit it crazy like that thing came on me. Hey, mommy, look a lady, main thing. Want me on the scene, fit popping like a main vein, running blood color lips, smashing with the hand clutch money, holding back. Kinda funny, can you tell me what's the price tag of the Range Rover? Hang on me when we walking, looking Gucci like that thing sprayed on me. Walking with a limp like an ankle sprained on me. Yeah, I rock the cardigan, she don't really want me because one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it off and let me see what's under them seams. No one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it up and let me see what's under them seams. Hey, let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Aim off and on the middle of my lawn. Aim off and on the middle of my lawn. Cause no one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it up and let me see what's under them seams. Oh, you wanted to? Oh, I completely read that wrong.